Hi, Luke Bouchard from Solvac Life Coaching Services, where I specialize in men's issues. I often find it's really important to share my story with people so that they know who they're dealing with and they know what I've struggled with and where I've come from. And this video is going to be that. It's like, this is who I'm about and this is where I've come from and this is a lot of what my beliefs are from my own personal experience. And I'd like to share that with you. So here it is. I'll be 50 this summer. I'm a single father of two where I share custody of my children 50% of the time. I have two beautiful children who are 9 and 6, a boy and a girl. And I am, it's one of my greatest blessings. And it's also, frankly, what has forced me to be a better person and a better man. But more to that in a second. I'm the youngest of 5 children. I was born in northern Alberta, Canada. And at 3.5, my mother got out of a bad marriage with my dad and left and went back to her hometown just north of Edmonton. And shortly after she got us back, she attempted suicide and what back then was called a nervous breakdown and ended up on the psych ward. And we were all put into foster care. For whatever reason, which I still don't understand, my sisters ended up in a foster home and my brothers ended up in a foster home, and as the youngest I was on my own. This really didn't help my abandonment issues. Actually, it made it very worse. I lost my father because my mother got out of the relationship. Then I lost my mother because she ended up attempting suicide, and then I lost my siblings. And this has an effect on a person, as I'm sure you can imagine. Within 3 or 4 months, my mother got us back, and she then started down the track of becoming a teacher. Around that time, I took grade 1, and because I was in northern Alberta and in a francophone family, I took grade 1 in French, and it was an immersion. It was actually French as a primary language, and guess what? I failed. And so I had to deal with that as to not being good enough. And it turns out that I had quite a few learning disabilities that would always be an issue with how I learned and my learning style. At, I think, about 7, my mother took me to a specialist, and the specialist deemed it necessary to tell my mother that I had severe eye-hand coordination issues and that I would never do something as simple as ride a bike. Well, thank God my mother didn't listen to that specialist. And what did she do that very day? She went out and bought me a bike. And I learned to ride a bike, and I played hockey as a kid. Not very well, but I did all the things that most kids did. And I'm very grateful that she chose not to listen to that prescription as to how I am and how I'm supposed to be. Throughout my whole education, from 1 to grade 12, I was always in the special classes. I remember always getting assessed as to my learning disability, and that had another way of setting me apart from other people. It was like I was different. My childhood was different. I came from a broken home. Thank God my mother got out of that marriage. But still, there was this thing of always being different. And further to that, my mother dealt with her stressors with people by doing what I call geographical fixes in relationships. And she tended to be very transient. And by the time I was 18, I had moved 16 times. The longest I ever spent in one town was 4 years, from 7th through grade 10. And so we moved a lot, and I watched my older brothers and sisters either get kicked out or run away. So in the end, I was alone with my mom, and she did the best she can, but it was very conditional, and it was not easy. So when I stepped into my adult life, I had a lot of belief systems and a lot of stuff that was what I call running in the background. It was always kind of here, and it was always crossing my field of vision. I never saw it. I didn't know it was there. I I extremely low self-esteem. Fortunately, I had an ego that was, huge, not necessarily good, but it kind of overcompensated for my low belief of myself. And throughout my 20s and 30s, and frankly into my 40s, I was always having issues, and with relationships, issues with women, and problems, because I had a huge chip on my shoulder. I was fearful, deathly fearful, and very scared of commitment. A whole series of relationships that didn't last. Women telling me, you're not progressing with me, you're kind of stuck. And a lot of ways I got my ego stroked was by actually sleeping with women and trying to conquer them, because that's what we're told in society, is that you are a man when you have more women that you've slept with. And it's not real, it's not true, but that's what we're told. Got married in my late 30s, had 2 children, as I mentioned, and my marriage didn't last because of my ego and how personally I took stuff. And my ex-wife finally had enough. She's just like, she doesn't want to live that way. And who would? And frankly, it was about 2 years ago, I told her good for getting out, because you know what? I wasn't a picnic. So when you do this long enough and you have enough problems, eventually you get tired, and eventually you go, okay, maybe it's me. And I got to that point, but I needed a push. And the push I needed was to have a serious fall. I didn't break anything, but I hurt myself. And here's a picture of how I had hurt the bruise of hurting myself. And I had the opportunity to think a lot about my life and where I'm going to be in 10 years, and what kind of relationship I'm going to have with my kids, and how reactive I am with my children, specifically my oldest son, and how I didn't like what I was seeing. Didn't feel very good about what kind of father I was. So I changed, and it was no-brainer. It was not an option but to do things differently. At that time, I was 290 pounds. Here's a picture of me being that big. And I decided I needed to do some things differently, and I needed to see it differently. So I got help. I saw a therapist and started looking at some stuff, and really that was the turnaround of having a more authentic life. And I tell you all this to let you know that life is choices, and we choose to stay stuck, and we choose to be enmeshed in our issues, and we choose to be mired in our bullshit, or we choose to move forward, or we choose to go enough. And I've been a life skills coach for 22 years. My whole career has been working with people. I worked with children for 10 years in residential childcare settings, group homes. I used to do crisis one-to-one. I did family aid. I then did something called family preservation. I did family functioning assessments, and then I moved into supervising people and managing programs and overseeing programs with huge budgets. And so I have a background of working with people. I have a background of understanding family dynamics and what really keeps us stuck, and how can we make choices. And I've made a choice to do life coaching as a full-time gig with men, because men, we need to talk to each other. We need to stop co-signing each other's bullshit, and we need to stop acquiescing through silence, through just basically not saying anything. And men need to say to men, women do it, they've figured it out, they understand that they need to talk to each other. Frankly, it's how they're wired, how their brain is wired, and how they're socialized, but specifically how they see the world, so it comes naturally to them. But we have this, call it a code, call it a conduct, whatever you want to call it, that basically keeps us in this place that we really have to suffer alone. And I'm calling you out. I'm calling all the men out there who think that they have to suffer alone. And it's a choice. We don't live in the 300 years ago where we had to be tough. We don't live in a society even 50 years ago or 30 years ago where that's the way it was, where we have to choose to, cope through our addictions and be silent and do all that kind of stuff. We live in the 21st century where we know it can be different. What are you prepared to do different? What are you prepared to be more authentic and live a happier life? How are you prepared to take responsibility for yourself? I did. I had no choice. And I will help you make those choices, those better choices. I will help you understand what gets in the way of you being happy. I will help you understand what is your payoff to bad choices. Will you help yourself? Will you make a difference in your own lives? And will you choose to live a more meaningful, purposeful life where you're happier? Will you choose to step out of victimness and blame and go more into, I want a better life? Because it's a choice. I know. My number is 780-668-8054. I am deeply committed to helping my clients resolve and see what they can do differently. And feedback I've got from people that I've received is that I make a difference. In my website, there are testimonials. Go check them out. But I've been doing this too long, and I've had too much success with people to not know that I can't help. There's no other way I can look you directly in the eyes, into the lens of this video camera, and go, I can make a difference. Of this, I have no doubt. Whether or not you're willing to do it, not really my problem. It's yours to decide. And yours to decide if you want to be here in 10 years. And that's the question I ask people. In 10 years, do you still want to be here with these issues, with these problems, with this conflict, with this stress? 10 years of sleeplessness? 10 years of being unhappy? Because that, my friend, is a choice. And it's not a stellar choice, but it's a choice. And if nothing else that you take away from this video, know it's a choice. And you have no one to blame but yourself. I look forward to talking to you, and I'm deeply invested in making a difference. So call me now, 780-668-8054. It's up there on the website. I want to thank you for taking time to watch this video out of your day. I don't even know how long I've gone on for, but you're sticking with this video and having me kind of smack you around and what your issues are is just an indicator to me that you're prepared to do something differently, that so many men are not prepared to do, and that you have, that hunger and desire to want to have a better life for yourself, a better life for your children. Do it, if nothing else, do it for your children. What do they deserve? How is your father with you? And do you want to make better choices? Of course you do. I have no doubt. I have doubts about you, moving forward. But thank you all the same for watching and taking time out of your very busy day and taking time away from other things to be with me and be in the space with me. And I wish you a great day, and I hope things are, the way you want them to be in your life. Goodbye. Call me.